And I was going to tie him up to one of the pillars of the masjid and let the little kids come and play with him in the morning, like a little fan. It's not hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And he said, then I remembered the dua of my brother Sulaiman. رب اغفر لي وهب لي ملكا لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي إنك أنت الوهاب. And I decided, because one of the capabilities of this mulk of Sulaiman alayhi salam was what? Control of the what? Of the jinn. Control of the jinn. So when he makes this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives Sulaiman a miracle, he doesn't just give him the miracle of money and the way we think. Like, we think, I want $20 million. I want $1 billion. I want $20 billion. I want $40 billion. Sulaiman alayhi salam got given that. Plus, he got given the capability to speak to birds. Plus, he got capability to control the jinn. Plus, he got capability to what? What's the other major superpower he had? The wind. Someone that can control. I mean, do you understand? If you have the most powerful army in the world, and aircraft carriers and ships and airplanes and this, and you can control the wind, what are they going to do with you? You understand? So this was Sulaiman alayhi salam. So he's a magnificent king over a magnificent kingdom that no one's ever had before. In addition to wealth and power and land and economy and technology, he also controls the jinn, and he controls the wind, and he controls and he speaks to the birds, and we'll see in a second how he speaks to the ants. The power of Sulaiman alayhi salam was unlike anything you've ever seen or ever seen. This is the mulk of Sulaiman alayhi salam. This is what utina min kulli shay. Inna hadha lahuwa al-fadl al-mubin. Where was his capital? Where did he live, Sulaiman alayhi salam? Where did he live? Where specifically? He lived in Beit al-Maqdis. He lived in Quds. You know, subhanahu wa ta'ala returned back. So his capital was Quds. Like the capital of Sulaiman. Who's the brother making the attack? This, okay, do you want to make it? Do you want to make it now so we can? You tell me. No, you tell me whenever you're ready. I'll stop and we'll resume. We'll resume after, inshallah. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وانت ارحم الراحمين ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وعلى اليك التوكل الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم على المرسلين وعلى رحمتك الى الحق والدين واخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. So resuming the surah that we were on, and apologies for the confusion I caused, because we're taking just today a slight deviation from Surah Yusuf and speaking about the story of Surah An-Naml. This is ayah number 16. So we covered ayah number 15 and ayah number 16, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the mulk of Sulaiman alayhi salam, the mulk of Dawood alayhi salam, the job that they did, which effectively was to rule over land and people, that they had, wealth, they had economy, they had technology, and they had deen. So the other lesson for us is being a good Muslim doesn't mean you have to be weak. It doesn't mean you have to be poor. It doesn't mean you have to be uneducated. It doesn't mean any of these things. Being a Muslim also includes being educated and having money and having position and using it for good. And this is one of the lessons that we learn from these first two ayat in Surah An-Naml. Ayah number 15 and ayah number 16. So ayah number 17, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَحُشِرَ لِسُلَيْمَانَ جُنُودُهُ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ وَالطَّيْرِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. This ayah describes in the Quran one of the most magnificent armies you have ever seen in your life. One of the most magnificent armies. It's beyond imagination, beyond description. But brothers that are in the back, do you guys want to come forward? I always say people have taken a shower, everything smells good here, so please come close. I just want to be able to see you. My eyes are not that good anymore. I know I'm going to take you from the third class seat, but Allah Bismillah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَحُشِرَ لِسُلَيْمَانَ. What does Hushira mean? Hushira in Arabic means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the day of judgment as Yawm al-Hashr. What does Hashr mean or Hushira mean? Gathering. It was gathered for him junudu, his army. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing an army because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says his junud. Min al-jinni wal-insi wal-tayr. This is an army today. If you see an army, if you see it in YouTube or the news or television, you see a bunch of soldiers. You may see some military equipment, right? You may see, if it's a sophisticated display, you may see airplanes flying from above, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here that his junud, his soldiers, were very different to anything that we've ever imagined, we even see today, right? His army had min al-jinn. What is jinn? The jinn. What are the jinn? The jinn are jinn. How does the Prophet ﷺ in his hadith speak about the jinn? What does he say? What does he say, the Prophet ﷺ, about the khalq of the jinn? He says, خُلِقَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ مِن نور. In one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ describes the creation. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the angels from light. The angels are beings of light, right? وَخُلِقَ الْجَانَّ, and the jinn were created from مَارِجٍ مِّن نَارٍ. مَارِجٍ مِّن نَارٍ, right? وَخُلِقَ آدَمْ مِمَّا رُوِيَ لَكُمْ أَوْ مِمَّا حُكِيَ لَكُمْ. And Adam alayhi salam was created from what has been described to you, meaning we're children and daughters of Adam. The clay, the mud, the water, that description is what we've been created from. The angels we haven't seen, and the Prophet ﷺ said they were beings of light, they are beings of light, and the jinn we haven't seen, and these are beings of fire. What does that mean? Can someone describe to me what that means? Tell me what that means. Use your knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah to describe to me a jinn. You don't have to tell me they're red, they're big, that's not what I'm looking for. Like, give me, like, we are created from clay. What would the jinn be? Fire. Okay. What is manage? Manage gives us some additional hints. Flameless. Okay, good. Take me out to the last level. So now you're at level 2. What's the final level? You're right. You know, it's not flameless, it's actually smokeless, but so management now, let me describe this to you. If you go home and you turn on your stove, thank you, and the stove has a flame around it, take a look at the color of the flame. What is it in the middle? In the middle. You're getting, it's red. What is it at the edge? It's blue. Sister already said it. You guys keep changing the colors. Okay. So the very edge of the flame is blue. The very edge of the flame, when you turn on the stove, is the blue flame. This is the marriage in the. This is what the Prophet ﷺ is speaking about. When we say a smokeless fire, this is what it is. It's the very edge of the flame when you turn on the fire. This is with the jinn. So give me a one-line Twitter description of what is the jinn. Beings of, fill in the blank. There's just one definition. Beings of Einstein's theory of relativity speaks about energy. Man, who said that? Who's the genius that said it? Who was it? Raise your hand, man. Raise it proud. Finally, the brothers get some points. Oh my God, you guys are so behind. You're now catching up. Jinn are beings, extremely powerful beings of energy. You understand? Beings of energy. That's what the jinn are. That's why we can't see them. The other reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran describes is they can see you and they can see humans and we can't see them. If you open up your microwave oven, let me give you a test of jinn. Okay? If you go home and you have a microwave oven and you put a piece of chicken in it that comes from the fridge and you set it up for 30 seconds, it comes from the fridge and it's cold and it comes out of the microwave and it's what? Why? Why does it come out hot? Because it was bombarded by energy. Did you see it? No, but you have the effect of it. You understand? That's what the jinn are like. We don't see them because they're like microwave power. You understand? They're beings of energy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing the army of Sulaiman, and He says one category of the army of Sulaiman are the jinn. One category of the army of Sulaiman is the ins, and this is a massive army, And one of the categories of the army is tayr. What is tayr? Bird. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. What is فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ? The army is laid out in terms of category of creation. The jinn stand on the right hand side, the ins stand in the middle, the birds stand on the left, or whatever order it was in. You understand? But there's another description in this word for whom yuza'un. For whom yuza'un also suggests that even within the category of creation, there are categories of seniority. You understand? There's categories of the general stand in the front, the lieutenant stand in the middle, the soldiers stand in the back, the wingmen stand over here, these stand over there. You understand? So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this one word, simple ayat, this is again the beauty of the description of the Quran. Allah describes the army and how the army is standing. In addition, the categorization of the people in the army and what their function is, plus the ranks and level. Plus the ranks and level. So Sulaiman alayhi salam, now if he's looking at the army, what's that called, by the way? So the king is looking at his army. What's that called? There's a word for it in English. Anyone ever here been to an army? Was anyone ever here at the, the president of the delegation that went to visit another country that had an army? What do they do when you get off the plane? They're like, come over, master. Let us show you our honor guard. And what are you doing? You're like looking at them, you're going like this, like as if you're going to say, like what are they doing? They're going like this, like they're walking up and down. What's that called in English? Inspection. It says inspection. So Sulaiman's army is gathered in front of him for an inspection. They're about to go on a mission, and he wants to make sure everything is ready. Are the tanks ready? Do we have fuel? Let me see the birds. All the birds are good. Okay, where about the jinn? Hey, you understand? So Sulaiman alayhi salam is inspecting his magnificent army that no one else will have anything like this ever. And they're ready to march. The whole museum by category. And they're getting ready to march. So they start to march. And they come to a wadi النمل. حتى إذا أتوا على وادي النمل قالت نملة يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحطمنكم سليمان وجنوده وهم لا يشعرون. As they start to march, they come to a wadi. What is a wadi in Arabic? A valley, which means they're coming from where? So the army's now marching. Let's pretend you're in the army. What are you about to do if you come to a valley? Does anyone understand what a valley is? Walk down. So they're coming from above. The army is marching with Sulaiman alayhi salam, this magnificent army, and they're coming from above, and they're about to enter into the valley. So they're about to descend into the valley. Now, apparently this valley had a lot of ants. I want to say this wasn't just like a single ant colony. This was full of ant colonies, right? Wadi Namla means the valley of the ants. So this particular valley was adopted by the ants. The ants lived there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just telling us a story for entertainment. He's bringing to light the magnificence of His creation. The magnificence of His creation. He's bringing to light the fact that the animals communicate in ways we may not understand. One of the things that my brother, he's a lot more patient than I am. My brother took up in COVID was to raise up beehives, right, and to make honey in his backyard. And he learned all these things. He's become, I don't know what they call it in California, the expert or whatever, beehive keeper. And they have a network, and they have like social media groups and Slacks, and they help each other, And he told me that one of the things he learned is how, this is a recent thing, how bees communicate. When bees leave the nest and they find food, they communicate back to the rest of the hive. And the ways they communicate is through their wings. So they give a certain signal with their wings, and a certain signal means that they found food. The rest of the signal from the wings is the GPS coordinates of where the food is from the hive. So these are miracles from Allah. So the Naml, a Namla, قالت Namla. Allah says قالت Namla. Is it a male ant or a female ant? It doesn't matter. Female. Yes, female. Yes. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter male or female. Doesn't matter. Mufassirin generally say it's a female ant. Females are okay. Now tell me why it's a female ant. قالت نملة. Okay, what's the other reason? Now think about technology. Remember what I said at the beginning? Successful Muslims, successful in their deen, successful in their dunya. Successful in dunya means dunya knowledge. What did they find out recently? Who's the head of the colony? The Queen. The Queen. So the leader of the colony taking care of all the civilians says, hey, civilians, I see Sulaiman coming down the valley. Coming down the valley. And you're very little. Look how little you are. You know when the ants are walking, if you ever see an ant video and like one of those BBC things where it's super zoomed in and it has the antenna. You know how the ants walk up and they like go and they walk around like now they're saying that that's actually the communication of the ants. Right? So she's walking around and she's like, hey, with her antenna, they make sure that they know that, make sure they know that. The army's coming down, and you guys are very little, yes, a magnificent, huge creation. And this creation, if they don't know that you're here, they're going to step on you. يَحْطِمَنَّكُمْ means to destroy something. It will destroy you and your colony. Right? And if it does do that, look at the wisdom of the ant. The ant says, the ant says, if this does happen, they won't do it on purpose. They're not bad people. Sulaiman is not a bad person, his army is not bad people, they just don't know that you're here. So you better take action to evacuate this path that they're coming down before they come and trample over you. One of the miracles of Sulaiman is he could speak to birds, and he could speak to animals, including the ants. One of the miracles of Sulaiman, he could speak to ants. Because in the following ayah, ayah number 19, Allah says, فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا مِنْ قَوْلِهِ وَقَالَ رَبِّ أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرَ نِعْمَتَكَ الَّتِي أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيَّ وَعَلَى وَالِدَيَّ وَأَنْ أَعْمَلَ صَالِحًا تَرْضَاهُ وَأَدْخِلْنِي بِرَحْمَتِكَ فِي عِبَادِكَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Sulaiman hears the warning of the ant. And Sulaiman has no intention of destroying the sand colony at all. Accident or not accident. Right? Which means he stops the army. He's like, hey, let's change our coordinates, go left, go right, go this, go that, to avoid the valley. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just say that. He describes exactly what Sulaiman was looking like when he did that. What's the first word here used? The best means smile. What does that mean? Show me a smile. Oh, see that, brother? That's a beautiful smile. Look at that, brother, right there. Beautiful smile. Okay. That's called a smile. Smile is this. Smile is this. And it's not this. It's not, I understand what answers things. That's not the smile. That you understand? That's not what Sulaiman did. Incidentally, that's not what the Prophet did either. If you read the hadith and you study the seerah of the Prophet, you'll see in that hadith that generally described, the Prophet will say, he smiled, which means like this. If he smiled very hard, what would the hadith say? Until the whites of his teeth showed. So the Prophet would have a massive smile to the point that the white of the top of his teeth would show, and the Sahaba would be, the Prophet was so happy, whatever that was. Right? And so this is the nature of messengers and prophets, which is, by the way, also, this is for us. They're sitting around and smiling and laughing at top of your lungs, and that's not from the manner of the prophets. And he says, Rabbi Awzi'ni. What he doesn't say, look, we're now saying the example of a wonderful king. He doesn't say, I'm so powerful, I can speak to ants, look at me. Like he says, Ya Allah, Awzi'ni. What does Awzi'ni mean? And ashkura ni'mataka. Make me thankful for the ni'mah you've given me. But Awzi'ni is very specific. What is Awzi'ni? Awzi'ni is set me by remote control. But if you're driving on 405, or if you're driving on I-5, you want to do what? Stay in your lane. You want to stay in your lane. You don't want to make any sudden moves because that's dangerous. You run into an accident. He's like, help me stay in my lane consistently, where I'm thankful for the ni'mah that you've given me. Guide me by your remote control. This is Rabbi Awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mataka allati an'amta alayya wa a'mala salihan tardah wa adkhilni bi rahmatika fi ibadika as-salihin. SubhanAllah. And then this is from a messenger of Allah, to have him enter into the mercy of his man. This is a messenger who's generally, their sins are forgiven. By the way, when we go back to Surah Yusuf, inshallah, so not next week, because I won't be here next week, but the week after that, so next episode of Yusuf, will resume the week after next. You'll see at the very end of the surah, Yusuf also makes a similar dua. The story all wraps up. He says, Allah, let me be thankful and just have me die as a Muslim. So this is Sulaiman alayhi salam after he hears the warning of the ants. Ayah number 21, فَفَقَّدَ الطَّيْرِ فَقَالَ مَا لِيَ لَا أَرَى الْهُدْهُدَ أَمْ كَانَ مِنَ اللَّهِ. He stops the army one more time, and like any good general, he inspects the army one more time. Let me just make sure we're all in line. Did we lose anyone? Is everyone okay? Is everyone here? فَفَقَّدَ means to inspect or to look for something. So he specifically is going, jinn, check. Sire, all the jinn are here. Ins, all the ins are here. Fine, let's now move on to the birds. And so he finds a bird missing. The ulama say the bird was missing because the spot was empty. That's one possibility. The other possibility is this was the drone commander of the birds. The drone commander of the birds was the hudhud. Who's the hudhud? What's the hudhud look like? Does anyone know? What does the hudhud look like? Woodpecker? I'm not sure it's a woodpecker. Yeah, see what this brother's doing? The hudhud is actually a small bird. It's about that big. SubhanAllah. Just this afternoon, actually, I saw a blue one, actually. And it has feathers in the middle of its head and a tall beak. It's not a very big bird. That's the hudhud. In English, it's called hoopoe, H-O-O-P-O-E. You can find pictures of it on your phone. So the man is looking, and then he doesn't find the bird. He doesn't find the hudhud. Where's the hudhud? Am I just missing it, or is it not really here? The hudhud is not here. The commander of the drone army is not here. By the way, the birds had a very important role. What do you think were the birds? What do you think is the role of the birds in an army like Sulaiman's army? What did the ulama say? That they bring news. Okay, so like reconnaissance, what we would call today reconnaissance. Okay, so bring back information. But they had another really important function, which is that if you have a massive army that's traveling, what's one of the key things that the army needs to find? Water. Water. So the birds would fly in and go, there's water here, there's water here, there's water here. Make sure to stop at this is where you need to stop to pack up on snacks and food and water to be able to continue to move it. So the birds have multiple functions. So the commander of the birds isn't there. So when he says, فَقَالَ مَا لِيَ لَا أَرَى الْهُدْهُدَ أَمْ كَانَ مِنَ الْغَائِبِينَ, is the hudhud missing? Is that what I'm noticing? The hudhud is not there. So look at the following ayah, ayah number 21. لَأُعَذِّبَنَّهُ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا أَوْ لَأَذْبَحَنَّهُ أَوْ لَيَأْتِيَنِّي بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ. So he says, I'm going to punish that bird, or I'm going to kill that bird, unless it comes back, if it doesn't come back with a good excuse. Why would he do that? Why would he do that?
He says because he don't want everybody in his army do the same. Yeah.
He doesn't want everybody in the army to do the same thing. That in English has a word for it. If you ever served in the military, what's the word called? Desertion. Desertion. By the way, in Islam, this is haram. This is from the kaba'ir. In Islam, this is from the kaba'ir in Islam. For someone to, run away from the army or escape from the army. This is from the kaba'ir in Islam. Okay? So here, he considered this from the kaba'ir of the bird. Did it desert the army? If it deserted the army, then its penalty is death. The penalty of a deserter is death. You understand? Because you don't want people to follow the example of this bird. You don't want them to be cowards. You don't want them to retreat. How am I going to get my information? Or that bird had better come back with a good excuse why it was missing. What made it stay away? So, when, I'll give you an example. Teacher comes to class and looks around and sees all the students there and then goes, hey, where's Yusuf? Where's Yusuf? And all the kids do what? What do the kids do? Where's Yusuf? They're really angry. Ever had this happen to you in school? Like all the kids showed up on time. This was never a problem. Like the kids go quiet. They're like, oh, Yusuf's in trouble now. Yusuf's in trouble. So I don't know what he's going to do when he shows up because the teacher's pretty mad. You get a whacking when he comes in, right? And there's an uncomfortable silence. You understand? There's an uncomfortable silence in the classroom. This is Tamakata. So after a little short period of time in uncomfortable silence, when the rest of the army had no idea what to say about their Hugo friend being missing, the whole other shows up. And now it's like CNN breaking news. Like, you know how they get out breaking news. This is now what's going on. Seriously, this is exactly the description of the Quran, right? فقال أحطت بما لم تحط به وجئتك من سبأ بنبأ يقين. I know you're angry with me. I have a fantastic reason why I was missing from the army. When you gathered it up and you're inspecting, right? Incidentally, the ulama have some amazing, funny things to say about this particular, about these whole few pages, but this one in particular, they say when the hoopoe bird came back, it didn't land in its spot. It didn't land on the runway it's expected to land on. It landed on that runway over there, where Sulaiman couldn't get to it. Because it knew it was in trouble. It was just like, I got back, but I'm standing over here because I know you're going to come and kill me. Right? Like, you know, when you come home and your parent is waiting, like, I'm just going to stand over here. This is what the bird did. Right? And the bird says to him, is the bird speaking English, Spanish? What's the bird speaking? Bird speaking bird, right? So man already understands the language of birds. So the bird says to him, we're now getting the Quranic translation. So you're watching the episode and the bird is speaking, chirping, and then we're seeing the English or the Arabic underneath. This is what's going on, right? So Allah's giving us the transliteration, description of the conversation of the bird. So the bird says, I have news you do not have, sire. I have information that you do not possess. And I came to you from Saba. بنبأ يقين. What is a نبأ يقين? What is yaqeen in Arabic? إن هذا لهو حق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. Sure truth, 100% validated news, 100%. I have pictures of reconnaissance. Here's the castle, this is the queen, here's the kingdom, and I came all the way from Saba. Where's Saba? Yemen. Saba was a magnificent kingdom. Saba was an unbelievable civilization. Saba was a superpower of the time. Saba was a superpower of the time. Yemen had a strong economy, tons of wealth, lots of technology. We'll see in a second, a massive army. This was a superpower. Saba, you don't mess around with Saba, right? And he's where? Beit al-Maqdis or the north. It'll be very like this and worse what I meant is. So the bird traveled all the way from Beit al-Maqdis and now back to Beit al-Maqdis and remember this news. And the bird says, إِنِّي وَجَدْتُ امْرَأَةً أُوتِيَتْ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ وَلَهَا عَرْشٌ عَظِيمٌ. So the Saba now starts to report back on this reconnaissance information. And she reports back some really peculiar things. Really peculiar. She says, I came back from this amazing civilization. Now remember, she's delivering news about another civilization that's very powerful to another king that also has a magnificent, super powerful civilization. You understand? Okay. So first thing is, the ruler of this land is a queen. The first piece of news, the ruler of the land is a queen. Find, by the way, in a second that she's a super wise queen, extremely wise queen, right? Tamliku means own them, or run the land, or run the country. And she has from all kinds of power. She has wealth, she has farms, she even has, what did she have at the time that we learn about later in another surah? What was built in her time that was an amazing miracle of architecture? Huh? Said, no. Dam. She had a dam. She had huge dams in Saba for the farming. Afterwards, when her people became kuffar, Allah actually destroys them by the destruction of these dams. There's another part of the Quran, other stories. But she had these amazing technological creations in her land, these buildings and these things of architecture that I've never seen before. And in addition to that, she has a fantastic, magnificent throne. Arsh al-Azim means an unbelievable throne. The throne is described as made of gold and enameled in rubies and emeralds and jewels, and just unbelievable, massive throne. You know, when has anyone ever been to Paris? Raise your hand if you've been to Paris. If If you go to Paris, what do the very first time, where would you go? Where do you think most people go? The Eiffel Tower, okay. If you go to Egypt for the very first time, where would you go as a tourist?
Pyramid.
The pyramid. So every country has this kind of unique thing. Like if you go to Paris, the one thing you should do is go see the Eiffel Tower. Go to Egypt, the one thing you should do is see the pyramid. You understand? Their one thing was the throne. Their most magnificent thing was the throne of this queen. From everything that they have, this throne is unbelievable. So the bird calls it out. Now comes, this is the good news. Now comes the really bad news. So the bird is reporting back. Let me now just tell you the really bad news. وجدتها وقومها يسجدون للشمس من دون الله وزين لهم الشيطان أعمالهم فصدهم عن السبيل فهم لا يهتدون ألا يسجدوا لله الذي يخرج الخبء في السماوات والأرض ويعلم ما تخفون وما تعلنون الله لا إله إلا هو. So the bird says to Sulaiman, the bad news is, I found her and her people with all this amazing technology that they have, and all this power, and all this wealth, and all these engineers, and all these generals, and all this gold. You can't believe that they're worshiping the sun and not us. Do we have this today? This description of the bird, this description that she makes of this particular civilization, do we have this today? You guys look really doubtful.
Yes.
All over the place. All over the place. It's not just Sabah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us a description of reality that can happen half the time. The fact that people have wealth and power and military and technology and satellites and this and that doesn't necessarily mean that they have hidayah. It doesn't mean that. The fact that people claim to be the free world and we apply justice and we have this, it doesn't mean that they have hidayah. It's what they tell each other. It doesn't mean that they actually have it. You understand? It doesn't mean that. And this is what the bird is saying to them. The bird is actually saying this to Sulaiman in a surprised way. Like what really surprised me, sire, was that even with all the things that they had, my king, they're still worshiping the sun. Can you imagine that? It also shows us something else about the bird. What is that? What is the characteristics of the bird when she says this particular statement? That they're making sujood to the sun. The bird cares about what? Cares about Islam. The bird is a da'iyah. The bird is about da'wah fi sabilillah. The bird is about guiding people. The birds, they're unguided. They're unguided. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I couldn't believe it. So the bird cares about Islam. So there's a message in here for us. Like, don't we care about Islam? Look at this hoopoe bird. Look at this hoopoe bird. Like, shouldn't we be making da'wah to people around us? This is one of the lessons here, right? And the bird goes on to say, they're lost, and when you're lost, Shaitan comes through and says, you're terrific. There's no one like you. You're fantastic. You should continue to do exactly what you're doing. You should continue down this path. This is the right path. This is the best path. This makes sense. So Shaitan shows up. What is Zayyana in Arabic? Zayyana. Beautify, or to decorate. Decorate. Prophet ﷺ has a beautiful hadith where he describes dunya. He describes dunya. He says dunya shows up. Dunya, everything in dunya shows up on the day of judgment like what? What does he personify as? A very old, ugly woman that's wearing what? Jewelry. So the Prophet ﷺ says dunya shows up on the day of judgment like a very old, ugly woman with some jewelry on her, asking people of Akhir, saying, will anyone take me? Will anyone just and no one wants to have anything to do with it. No one. So you can put adornments on things and it doesn't make them any beautiful. It doesn't make them any better. You could put up flags, you could come up with things, you could say whatever you want to say. And it's still ugly. This is what the bird is saying about the shaitan's way. The bird goes on to say, and someone then say that this is what I'm not saying this, but by most accounts it's the bird that why would they not make sujood to Allah? What does يخرج الخبأ? What does خبأ mean in Arabic? يخرج الخبأ means to reveal the خبأ. What is خبأ? The hidden. خبأ means from something that is hidden, something that is deeply hidden. So, because it goes on to say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that reveals the most deep, penetrated secrets of the earth and of the heavens, including which secrets? Which secrets is the deepest of secrets? You know, the Arabs have this kind of expression about khab. You know, the Arabs have this kind of expression. They say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the khab of the sky to reveal the khab of the earth. What is the khab of the sky, you think? The rain. And when it comes down, what's the khab of the earth? The plants. The plants are hidden and the rain is hidden. But when the rain comes down, it releases this khab. But what do you think is the khab that is extremely hidden, would never come out? The one of the hearts. The deepest secrets of the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this in the Quran. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this in the Quran. Allah الذي يعمل الخلق في السماوات والأرض ويعمل ما تسرون وما تعلنون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Isra and speaks about it as so this is in the heart, right? ويعمل ما تخفون وما تعلنون. At the end of the ayah is what you reveal and what you don't reveal. Allah la ilaha illa huwa rabbul arsh al-azim. The verse goes on and close off with the real throne. The most beautiful throne is the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So Sulaiman now, we're now on ayah number 27. قال سننظر أصدقت أم كنت من الكاذبين. So Sulaiman says to the bird, okay, I'm going to now take and test you. This is a very serious crime you've committed by not showing up when you're supposed to show up. I'm going to test you with whether or not this is true or not. اذهب بكتابي هذا. Take this letter of mine. فألقه إليهم and send it to them. ثم تولى عنهم. Then walk away. فانظر ماذا يرجعون. And then tell me what they say. Tell me what they say. Okay? So Sulaiman writes a letter, gives it to the hoopoe, sends the hoopoe back to a mission in Saba. The hoopoe flies all the way back to Saba, comes to the king, comes to the palace of the queen, where the throne exists. The ulama say that because they worship the sun, this particular palace had openings in different directions where the sun can come in from, and the hoopoe bird comes right over one of those spots where the sun was shining and drops the letter of Sulaiman. Right? The queen now gets the letter. This is now the next scene in the ayah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the queen now is saying, this is ayah number 29, قالت يا أيها الملأ إني ألقي إلي كتاب إني ألقي إلي كتاب كريم إنه من سليمان وإنه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألا تعلوا علي وأتوني مسلمين. This is the most magnificent letter you've ever read in your life. Sulaiman alayhi salam writes a letter to this queen. And the bird delivers it and sends it to her. And now, effectively, we understand she gets the letter, she opens the letter, she reads it, she goes to her throne room to where all the mala are. What are the mala? Okay. The ministers and the advisors and the generals and the businessmen and the doctors and the PhDs and the scientists and all these people, the fashion designers and the Instagram, blah, blah, blah. They're all there in the throne of the queen. And she comes up and she says, I've just gotten this letter from Sulaiman. And what does the letter say? It has 2 lines in it. The letter has 2 sentences. All this for 2 sentences. What do the sentences say? Yes, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ألا تعلوا علي وأتوني مسلمين. By the way, this is the only surah with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim right in the middle of the surah. Right in the middle of the surah, right? So the letter says the following: Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, ألا تعلوا علي وأتوني مسلمين. And the queen is really concerned. What does that mean? ألا تعلوا علي وأتوني مسلمين. What does that mean? What does that mean? We understand Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, I don't need to go over that. We got that? All good? Alhamdulillah. Okay, you guys look super doubtful. No one's raising their hand, so I'm just going to let that pass. Okay. But what is ألا تعلوا علي وأتوني مسلمين? What does that mean?
Come to me, Muslims.
Come to me in Islam. Anything else?
I don't think you are better. I don't think you are better.
Come to Islam and don't think you're better. I like that. Yes. Anything else? Huh? Oh, Did you hear what the brother said? Oh, the brothers are there to all tonight or so. He said it's a threat. It's a threat. This letter is you know what we call nowadays ultimatum? Like when a very powerful nation goes to a weaker nation and says, you better do this and this and that, or I'm going to come in and take over the country. Like you understand? That's called an ultimatum or a threat. So Sulaiman sends her a threat, sends her a letter. Part of the letter is a threat. You better surrender to me. You better give up. You better submit yourself. What Tuni Muslimin also means submission, right? Islam means submission. And don't think you're better than me. Do you understand what that does to a superpower? Can you imagine, like nowadays, like I don't know, let's pretend Uzbekistan sends the Kremlin a letter to Putin, and the Putin says, you better surrender to me, Putin. You understand that? So the Queen is confused. Understandably, the Queen is really confused by the letter. And the Queen takes it out to her mother to say, help me understand this. I just got this letter now. She says, أرسل إلي كتاب كريم. كتاب كريم means what? It's an honorable, it's a polite message. It's actually polite. But it's like, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, please surrender, come over to me. This is the message. So it's a noble message, it's an honorable message, it's a polite message, but it's a message of surrender. It's a message of surrender, you understand? So she asks them, number 32, قالت يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في أمري ما كنت قاطعة أمرا حتى تشهدون. Where do we see this أفتوني في أمري in the Quran? What is أفتوني في أمري? Give me fatwa in my opinion. Give me fatwa. Give me an advice. What else do we see in the Quran? Yusuf where? With who? The king. The king has a dream. We didn't get to that part yet. The king has a dream and he says, يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في أمري. I just had this nightmare. أفتوني في رؤياي إن كنتم للرؤيا تعبرون. In Surah Yusuf, the king says, give me a fatwa in my ru'ya, in my vision. I've been having these nightmare visions of the destruction of the country. Give me an opinion. But here she goes back to them and she says, I want an honest opinion. I want your honest opinion. أفتوني في أمري. ما كنت قاطعة أمرا حتى تشهدون. While I'm the queen and the overpower, the highest power of this land, I still want opinion and advice on what to do about this letter, because this is a scary letter. This is a strange letter that we've got, right? The first people that respond are who? Generals, the military. Right? I have a military respond. We're going to take them. We're going to finish them off. We're going to destroy them. He has no idea who he's dealing with. Have you seen our latest materials? Have you seen the power of our
When will it end?
our weapons? Like, you understand? So the first ones to step up are always the general, right?
Why you're doing that?
We're extremely powerful. We will destroy this man for you. We will destroy him completely. Don't even worry about it. Don't even respond. It's not even worthy of response, right? And then they say, well, we're at your command, we're at your service, right? Then she has an amazing statement. This is ayah number 34. قالت إن الملوك إذا دخلوا قرية أفسدوها وجعلوا أعزة أهلها أذلة وكذلك يفعلون. So she says to them, when the kings enter into a country, أفسدوها means they spoil it or they corrupt it. And they make the people unworthy in that country, they put them up at the top. وَكَذَلِكَ يَفْعَلُونَ means, and this is the way it's been all throughout time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it's the way it's been throughout time. What's she actually saying? What's she saying? I'll tell you what she's saying. What she's saying is that when a country that's more powerful invades a country that is weaker, okay? When the US invaded Iraq back in the early 90s, when anything like that happens, what do they do when they come in? They say, we're liberating you. We're making you free. We're going to take care of you. We're here for democracy. We're here for this. We're here for that. And then what do they do immediately in that country they just occupied? They bring in a new government that is loyal to them. It's going to be your own people ruling you. You understand? We're not going to take over. You guys are still doing it. But what do they do for them to be loyal? They bring people from the bottom and they raise them to the top. You understand? So the loyalty of the people that they just brought up to the top is to the new invader, not to the people. Their job is to rule by the instructions of the invader, not by the instructions of the country. You understand that? And that's what she's saying. She's saying that if he's a king, where all he desires is dunya, if he's a king where all he's about is, we're going to invade this country for gas, we're going to invade this country for oil, we're going to invade this country to make sure we keep the pipeline, whatever is reason that they're wanting to do this invasion for, if all they're doing it is for the sources of wealth, then they're going to flip the social system upside down and the country's going to be corrupted. So if he wants wealth, what's the good way to avoid war? Give him the wealth. How about we just give him the wealth and tell us to leave us alone? And if he says no, then we'll fight. You understand? So she actually has a very wise approach to the problem. She says, you know what? I'm going to send him some wealth. And if he takes the wealth, that means he's a king of dunya. And it means all he wanted was access to the pipeline, or access to this, or access to that. You understand? Okay. So this is what she says in this area. I'm just going to sell them a huge amount. This is number 30. So you understand, the king said, hey, Minister of Finance, load up 1,000 camels with as much gold as they can carry, put it on their backs, get some of our best jewels, bring Yemeni leather, bring spices, bring this, bring that, bring this, load up all this caravan and send it to Sulaiman alayhi salam, all the way up in Bayt al-Maqdis. Ayah number 36, فَلَمَّا جَاءَ سُلَيْمَانَ. I know you guys are getting tired, so wait a second. فَلَمَّا جَاءَ سُلَيْمَانَ, meaning the caravan. So we understand the details that have occurred in between. She mobilized, she got all these supplies, she packed them up, she sent them over. They now, the next scene, the camera moves to the court of Sulaiman alayhi salam, where this caravan is arriving. The Mufassirin have many amazing things to say just about the size of the caravan she sent up to Sulaiman alayhi salam. And by the way, what would we call that in modern day times? What's another word to describe what she just did? A bribe. Yeah, it's sort of like a wink wink, but it's a king bribe. You understand? It's not like take $5 and walk away. It's a lot more than that, right? Okay. فَلَمَّا جَاءَ سُلَيْمَانَ, ayah number 36, when the caravan arrives at Bayt al-Maqdis, Sulaiman alayhi salam sees the caravan. He says the following: قال أتمدونني بمال فما آتاني الله خير مما آتاكم بل أنتم بهديتكم تفرحون. He says, like, are you really trying to pay me off? Are you really trying to pay me to get away from this mission? You understand his reaction? أتمدونني بمال? Is that really what you think I'm after? And he says to them, the knowledge Allah has given me, the wisdom, the hidayah, the Islam that He's given me, is 50 times better than what you think You've given me in love. You understand? Like, this mission I'm on, what is He trying to tell them? This mission I'm on is what? When we bring people to the message of teaching Islam, is it because we want $100 at the end? No. What do we want? For people to have hidayah. For people to have hidayah. Our job is not to give people hidayah. Our job is not to get paid by people because of the message that we give them. You understand? So this is what he's telling you. But he says, like, you may be happy with this law. You may be happy with what you think is me. I'm not, that's not what I'm after. That's not what I'm after. Ayah number 37, he says, back to the delegation that was sent, right? ارجع إليهم فلنأتينهم بجنود لا قبل لهم بها ولنخرجنهم منها أذلة وهم This is, just stop here. So he says to them the following. He says, go back with this wealth back to your people. I want none of this wealth. I want none of this wealth. I promise you, I will get you an army unlike anything that you've ever seen before. Because the delegation said what to him? Why is he saying that? Why did he get into army? Because the delegation said, we're under instructions, Your Majesty, to give you this wealth. We're hopeful that this will cause peace between the two nations. By the way, in this story, you're seeing modern day politics at work. Like this is how things still work today. Okay, we're giving you this wealth, your majesty, to keep the peace between our two kingdoms. It's to both our advantages, to keep the production systems the way they are, the supply chain the way they are. We mean no disrespect. This is that. I'm not interested in your wealth. I don't want any of it. How about we give you more wealth? No, I've been authorized by my queen to double this. No. You know, your majesty, I'm afraid that at the end this is going to cause war between the two kingdoms. And we're a superpower. We have a huge army. We have 1 million men. By the way, the descriptions of the Tafsir have the size of the army of the queen also. We have 1 million men that will come and just destroy Beit al-Maqdis. I'm sorry, Majesty, but this is what I'm instructed to tell you. You understand? This is the conversation going on in the court of Sulaiman. So this is when he turns and he says, you think you have an army? Dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. You understand where Sulaiman's coming from? He's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, you have advanced tanks. Oh, and you have submarines. Okay. And you have airplanes. Oh, and they're stealth. Okay. Very impressive. Let me tell you, the stuff that I have is better than all of that. Because if I can control the wind, your airplanes won't fly. And your submarines will leave the sky. If I control the jinn, they will penetrate all this stuff and blow you up without even knowing what hits you. You understand where Sulaiman is coming from? I control the birds. You have bird armies? Oh, you don't. Okay, I have bird armies too. Like you understand? This is what's going on in this conversation. Do you want to keep going or do you want to stop? We have like until the end of this page. This is a non-boarding class. And we don't have a test and we don't have a curriculum. So I'm totally okay to stop until next time. Keep going? Sure? Okay. So he turns to his meta. So we saw the meta of the queen, when she gets the advice of the general saying, war, your majesty, let's go to war, right? Now he turns to his own courtyard, his own advisors. So the camera is doing the same thing in the courtyard of Sulaiman alayhi salam in Beit al-Maqdis. And he says to them, Ya ayyuha al-mala, ayyukum ya'tini bi'arshiha qabla an yantuhi muslimin. He already knows he's got this. He has no doubt that they're going to come as Muslims. And he says, I'm going to project out a little trick on her. I'm going to tell you about the trick he's going to do. I'm going to tell you how that's applied today. Okay? So he says to them, remember what I said about the characteristics of the country on the previous page? What were some of the characteristics of the country? What did the word say? That there's a queen that rules over them. She has an amazing throne. Their Eiffel Tower is the throne of the queen. That when people go there, they go, that is the throne of the queen. Go take a selfie. Otherwise, you're never going to see anything like it again. You understand? So he's like, how about I get that throne before she comes over to me? How about I go and do that? Now, let me tell you where well, let me actually not tell you. Let me ask you first. See how you guys think about this problem. Why would he do that? Why would that be an interesting thing for him to have? Like, can you imagine, like, let's say Macron is coming to visit some unknown country in the South Pacific Islands that has never been discovered before, that just threatened him with war, and he decides to go out and to fly anyway to that island. And then the ruler of the island says, hey, I better have one of you go get me the Eiffel Tower and thank everybody before Macron arrives on the ship. Why would that be? Do you understand that? That's what he's doing. Like, why would that be? Do you see how that can be fascinating or not? Sorry? She has no control is wonderful. What else? She has no control, and it's very.
What she thinks is great is actually.
What she thinks is great is not as great, maybe, or. He took the motorcycle thing in and lifted it. Yeah, sister in the back, what are you going to say? Intimidation. I love it. Intimidation. Yeah, right. You're intimidating the enemy, or you're making them press. Let me tell you a Microsoft story. So I worked at Microsoft a long time ago, for many years. Did anyone here work at Microsoft? No, internship, only 2 people, 1 person? Whether you raising your hand or okay. I thought you were shy there. That's okay. So Microsoft at some point in time, Microsoft comes up with good inventions and bad inventions. And this is an example of a bad invention. It's quite impressive when you saw it. It was actually pretty stupid. It didn't work. Anyway, Microsoft invented a thing called Microsoft Table. I've never heard of that. It's an actual table. It's an actual table. But the table is a massive screen. And the table has software on it that could detect objects you put on the table. So one time I was on a meeting, and I used to present a lot at the Microsoft Executive Briefing Center, like present all kinds of technology and that kind of thing. And the CEO for BMW was going to visit Microsoft. So Microsoft has a big building on campus called the Executive Briefing Center, where they bring in these executives and they impress them with the latest technologies that Microsoft has. And the executives go, oh, I better mind this stuff. I'm going to be moving in 95. The CEO of BMW is coming in. And they brought the table. They had a demo of the table, and here was the application that they showed to the CEO for BMW. So let's say someone goes into a BMW dealership, and BMW was just launching a brand new 7 Series car. So if you know the BMW line, the 7 Series is the biggest, baddest car that they make, right? It's the most luxurious car that they make. So the new 7 Series was coming out, and the idea was you could go to a dealership, order a 7 Series BMW, and customize everything on it. And what they did was, and by the way, this is how it was developed later with BMW. Let's say you could pick from leather interior. You would get to feel the leather. You would put it on the table, and like it had a picture of the 7 Series, and it would change it to that leather that you put on. You understand? If you picked a specific type of wood, you would do that. If you did this, so you were able to auto-configure with what felt like the actual pieces of the material on the table, and then it would construct the car, and then you press a button and it would go to the factory, it would give you the order, and then the car would be shipped. You understand? That was the demo. That was, in a nutshell, the demo. Do you think the CEO for BMW was impressed? Do you think he was impressed? You don't think he was impressed? Dude, it blew his mind. It blew his mind. Like, we need one of those, right? So this is a sort of a similar example. You understand? That's why he wants the throne. That's why he wants the throne to him. Okay. So he says, قال عفريت من الجن أنا آتيك به قبل أن تقوم من مقامك وإني عليه لقوي أمين قال الذي عنده علم من الكتاب أنا آتيك به قبل أن يرتد إليك ربك فلما رآه مستقرا عنده قال هذا من فضل ربي ليبلوني أشكر أم أكفر ومن شكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن ربي غني. So he says to his advisors, who's going to go and get me her throne? And the first person that raises his hand is a what? Ifrit. Anyone from Egypt? Anyone from Egypt? Now in Egypt, you say like a boy or a girl that's very energetic, they say Ifrit. No, like they move around like Ifrit, right? Or Afrita, right? If you're female. And so Ifritum min al-jinn. The jinn come in categories. Sorry, I'm going to get geeky for a second. I give this example, doesn't always work. Let me just explain it. Does everyone here work in Amazon? Let me just pick an Amazon example. Amazon. Okay, so does anyone understand how you can buy machines? You can buy computers that are smaller, bigger, really big, right? These are called compute instances. Just work with me on this, okay? So like there's a small, medium, a large, an extra large. It could be a t-shirt, it could be anything, okay? Afritum min al-jinn means the extra large jinn. This is the super powerful black belt jinn. This is not a run-of-the-mill little weakling jinn. This is a super powerful jinn. Like this jinn has got it. So the jinn says to him, sir, I will go pick up that throne all the way from Salah and bring it back here, Baitul Maqdis, before you even get up and get your coffee. Before you go to your Nespresso machine, hit that button, I'm going to bring it right over here. And then the jinn says 2 things about himself. Like, you should see my resume. You should check my resume to make sure you give me that mission. Inni alayhi laqawiyyun ameen. His resume is qawi and ameen. What does qawi mean? So I'm the best that they've got in terms of jinn. You're not going to find a better jinn than me. And if anyone tries to stop me on the way, like if I get attacked by ninjas or whatever, I've got it. And I can carry the throne by myself. And what's my second characteristic? Sorry? Trustworthy. Why is that important?
Take it for myself.
Why is it being trustworthy important? I'm not going to come over to you, sir, and say, you didn't really have 5,000 jewels and only had 4,800. Wink, wink. Right? If any jewels drop on the way over or some of that loose gold, I'm going to make sure I pick it up. I'm not going to wink, wink, pass on as a gift or get it from customs in a certain fishy way and keep some of it for myself. Right? So the jinn is saying, trust me to get this mission. I'll bring her to the throne super quickly. I'm very strong. I can lift it up. I'm bringing it over here, and I'm very, very honest. Very honest. You understand? So there's proposal number one. Okay? Proposal number two now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, knowledge of the book. So the second proposal came from one of the other people in Surah, and he has knowledge of the book. And the ulama say he was from the ins, because the army of Sulaiman had jinn and ins had birds. So one steps up from the jinn, one steps up from the ins, and the one that had the knowledge of the book is one of the ins. And Mufassirin say he knew the dua that had the grand name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he makes dua with that name, and it is instantly in front of Sulaiman alayhi salam, the arsh of this queen. And when he sees فَلَمَّا رَآهُ, rest of the ayah, مُسْتَقِرًا عِنْدَهُ, he sees the throne stable in front of him. It's not wobbling on a mountain, it's not about to fall off. You're not going to go to Home Depot and say, I better get some straps and balance it. No, it's perfect. It's laid out perfectly in front of him. Right? He sees the throne of the queen perfectly in front of him. So Imam says, this is from the blessings of my master. To test me, wealth is a test, power is a test, technology is a test. Are you going to be a believer or are you going to be a disbeliever? Some people can get rich and give zakat, some people can get rich and get drunk. You understand? This is the same thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us everything in dunya, including the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can be a test to the negative. Some people get money and they go crazy with the money that they have. Right? And then he goes on to say, وَمَنْ شَكَرَ فَإِنَّمَا يَشْكُرُ لِنَفْسِهِ. And that's what Imam says. And just to teach you all a lesson, whoever is thankful is ultimately thankful for their benefit. And whoever is ungrateful, وَمَنْ كَفَرَ. So here you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us the definition of shakir and kafir. Shakir is someone who's appreciative, who's thankful for what they have. Kafir is someone that's ignoring what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them or using it for the wrong thing. فَإِنَّ رَبِّي غَنِيٌّ كَرِيمٌ. Allah, my master is غَنِيٌّ كَرِيمٌ. So when he sees it, he said, قَالَ نَكِّرُ لَهَا عَرْشَهَا نَنْظُرْ أَتَهْتَدِي أَمْ تَكُونُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَهْتَدُونَ نَكِّرُ لَهَا عَرْشَهَا. So he now brings all his other workers and he brings the jinn and he says to them, نَكِّرُ لَهَا عَرْشَهَا. What is نَكِّرُ in the Arabic mean? Comes from the Arabic word nakira or nakara. What does it mean? Disguise it, change it, mix it up a little bit. Mix it up a little bit. Nandur, is she going to recognize it or not? He's playing a little trick back to laying an amazing impression on her. He's playing a little trick. Make those pillars that are red, make them yellow. Those pillars that are green, make them red. And those pillars that are red, make them green. You understand? So it sort of looks like the Eiffel Tower, but it sort of doesn't. You understand? Like it sort of looks like, so you'd be like scratching your head, well, is this really my stuff? Because, this is weird. How did it get here? Why is it different? You understand? Okay. Is she going to know it or is she not going to recognize it? فَلَمَّا جَاءَتْ. So she finally arrives in her magnificent delegation of thousands of soldiers, thousands of counselors and ministers, and more gifts of gold and silver to Sulaiman alayhi salam. She's asked the question, is this your most impressive throne? Is that it right over there? Does it look like that? Does that kind of look, because I hear about it, I've just never seen it. Is that what it's like? So she turns around and you can imagine, like huge exclamation points going around her head. How did this happen, right? And she sees it, and she doesn't quite know what to say. Because it looks exactly like it, but it's what? Changed slightly. It's changed slightly. You understand? Like looks identical to it, but there's something about it that's different, which is this color thing that he did. قالوا نكروا العشر قال هكذا عشر قال كأنه وأوتينا علما من قبلها وكنا مسلمين. So you know, she's now starting to doubt the power and magnificence that she had before. And Sulaiman alayhi salam starts to make da'wah. He starts to make da'wah. He says, you know, the knowledge that we have is the knowledge of Islam. The knowledge that we have is the knowledge of Hidayah. The knowledge that we have is how to make tawheed. The knowledge that we have is not to worship superstition. And on and on and on. Not unlike the da'wah, just to draw you know, an analogy between this story and Surah Yusuf alayhi salam. What was the last thing that we talked about with Yusuf alayhi salam? What was going on with him? Where was he making da'wah? In the prison. In the prison. What did he say to his companions? He's like, what do you think is better? To have all these gods outside that the people worship? Or just to believe in one God that does everything for you, that controls everything in existence? What do you think makes more sense? What do you think makes more sense? He's kind of having that conversation. And whatever you're worshiping or absorbing, worship, by the way, here, my brothers and sisters, we should understand. You know, we think of worship in terms of people bowing down in front of statues and stones. Is that the only definition of worship? No. There's other definitions. Like, what's another definition of worship that people do nowadays all the time?
Follow your hawa.
Huh?
Follow your hawa.
Follow your hawa. Follow your desires.
Sorry.
Worship. People worship likes and Instagram followers. People worship reels. People worship, you know, new movies. People worship celebrities. People worship football teams. It doesn't mean you're bowing down to the football team. It doesn't mean you're bowing down to the wheels. You understand? But it means that the constant obsession of it in your mind is leading you to deviate from the path. Their phones. Okay, their phones, right? Hopefully no one is bound to their phone. But these are other examples of sadd an as-sabil. Sadd an as-sabil means blocking you from the sabil of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, last ayah. Ayah number 44. So at this stage, is she impressed? Has she heard about Islam? She's impressed and she's heard about Islam. So now she's revisiting the 1,000-year history that she's had of worshiping the sun. And she's like, well, how did that actually start? Why did we do that? You understand? Like, now all of that is being revisited in her mind. You know, when you bring a Christian brother or sister to the church and they've been very devoutly Christian or agnostic, and they start to like, I never really understood that point that they were teaching me in the church about the this and this and that. Like, they start to rethink that, right? So ayah number 44, and this is the conclusion of this story. So in addition to showing her Eiffel Tower magnificent throne, Sulaiman alayhi salam has created a sarh. What is a sarh? A palace. So there's a special, you know, because you're esteemed guest, the Queen of Sheba, coming all the way to Baytul Maqdis in the presence of the mighty King Sulaiman alayhi salam, I created a special palace for you. You know, like a guest house. I set up the guest house. You know, but her guest house is a palace, you understand? So here's the sarh that was created for you. So like, please go into your house, please go into your palace. She walks into the palace. Remember, does she come from an amazing technology? Is she from a first world country? Does she have things that no one else has? Does she have a magnificent throne? Does she have a 1,000,000-person army? Does she have? The answer is yes, 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 yes. She walks. So the people like that think they've seen it all. You understand? They think they've seen it all. There's nothing you're going to show me possibly after I've been to Vegas that's going to impress me. Possibly. So she's now going into the sarh. The sarh is a palace, and the palace is made of glass and pearl. The palace is made of glass. Even by nowadays standards, it blows anyone's mind. That's the construction of the palace. It's not bricks and mortars and wood and this. It's made of glass and pearl. Where did the glass and pearl come from, you think? Who would be the magnificent builders of the time? The jinn. The jinn were his construction army too. The jinn dove into the ocean and came up with jewels and pearls that he used in his palaces, right? So this is a jinn that constructed palace. One of the elements of the jinn that constructed palace, because it's made of glass, is the floor of the palace is covered, is what? Water. So when she walks into the palace has water as the floor, but it's covered in glass. You understand? Like today when you walk into a house, it's covered in carpet or wood or something, but we don't see what's underneath. But this is a sufficiently impressive palace that he puts water underneath. And in many of the facilities, they actually had fish in it as well. So it's like a massive fish tank, and it's covered in glass. And the glass is so pure, you don't know that it's there. You understand? You don't know that the glass is there. So when she's commanded to go in, she's, by the way, commanded to go in. She goes in as a queen, and she's being humble, by the way, every step of the way. She heard about Islam, she saw her throne, like, this is a different type of king. He didn't take my wealth, he's serious about this message, this Islam thing is real. If she walks in, and she feels like her dress and her magnificent, covering is going to get wet, what's anyone going to do?
Lift it up.
What? Lift it up. You understand? I better not get my dress wet. You understand? This dress is very expensive. So she lifts up her dress. وَكَشَفَتْ عَنْ سَاقَيْهَا. So don't worry, put your dress down. You're not going to get wet. قَالَ إِنَّهُ صَرْحٌ مُمَرَّضٌ مِنْ قَوَارِيرٍ. This palace is made of glass, and it's so translucent that you're never going to get wet. This is covered. Fish are not going to touch you. The water's not going to make your dress wet. You can come in, stay covered, and you'll be just fine. So you tiptoe across the floor. This is really happening. I'm really walking on water. Do you understand? That's what's going on. When she's at that level, similar to what I talked about with the CEO of BMW, you guys remember that story? She's like, this is real. I gotta get me some Islam, man. This is real. Okay? And so at the very end, what does she say? قالت ربي إني ظلمت نفسي. So job number one is to make istighfar for what she has done before, which was the worship of Islam. I've done wrong to myself. I've wronged myself. وأسلمت مع سليمان لله. And so I've accepted Islam with Sulaiman. I've accepted, my Islam is now complete and so. By the way, this is one of these stories. This is the end of the story, so we're going to close here. This is one of the stories in the Quran where you read it. If you get into, does anyone read big tafsirs here? I'm just curious. Raise your hand if you're into big tafsir. Not like the one-liners tafsir. Okay, so if you ever get into big tafsir books, there's many of them in the Kathir, you will find so many things about this. This story has a massive tafsir, mainly because it has a lot of Israeliyat in it. It has so many Israeliyat. I didn't actually get into them, right? By the way, what's an Israeliyat? What does that mean? Sources from the Jews. That's generally
Not true.
well, no. That's not what the Prophet says. He says, don't deny them and don't believe them. Right? The hadith of the Prophet about this, specifically says, don't say they're untrue, don't say they're true. We actually don't know. We don't know. But there's so many Israeliyat about the story. By the way, many of them were Jews of Medina, that when the Muslims were saying, oh yeah, we got that story, and here's what we know. And they complete some of them. Or they were from Yahudis that accepted Islam in Medina. They were, remember, a lot of the people in Medina were from the Yahud, and they accepted Islam. So they will try to complete the meaning, but unless there's an authentic hadith from the Prophet we don't know. But you'll find in the Israeliyat, you'll find names of the jinni, you'll find names of the queen, you'll find names of the queen's mother, you find names of the queen's father, you find descriptions of the queen, you find descriptions, there's all kinds of things in this particular story from the Israeliyat. So if you don't have to read everything, but I just thought I'd mention that. If you're ever reading this particular story of Sulaiman, because obviously Sulaiman is also a messenger of the Bani Israel, right? You'll find many of these stories about his horses and the fact that they have wings. By the way, they didn't have wings, just to make that point clear. So if you read that they have wings, Sulaiman didn't have winged horses, he had no horses. The other one that you'll hear is Surah Salt, the brother or the sister that said, the ayah. ربي هب لي ملكا لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي إنك أنت الوهاب. But before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes how Sulaiman alayhi salam, the story about him slaughtering his horses, the same page of that same surah. That's not true. Like we realize he didn't slaughter his horses because he was taught to prayer. Because that's very prevalent even in the Muslim world. Like, oh, he missed his Asr prayer, so he took the horses and he killed them. What do the horses have to do with him missing his Asr prayer? So we need to just make sure that when we read this stuff, it sort of jives with our understanding of what messengers and prophets do. Anyway, let's make it on, inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. زدنا علما وارزقنا. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين وعلى برحمتك في هذا الدين. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. اللهم صل على الناس في فلسطين. اللهم احفظهم بحفظك وبرعايتك ودعائك التي لا تنام. اللهم تقبل منا صيامنا واجعلنا من اتقاء شهر رمضان وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. Jazakallah khair. Sorry about the confusion with Surah Yusuf. Hopefully you guys are good with this. We'll continue that series inshallah in 2 weeks inshallah.